It's the 23rd of December 2023 and I'm sat by a fire on a beach. I'm looking around at all of the sun-kissed happy people here, wondering why they're all naked. Oh, I'm on a hippie beach. That's why. It's night time and the moon is illuminating the beach as people dance to techno music and revel in the bliss of hippie freedom. The Tenerife nights aren't freezing cold, but cold enough for me to need to huddle by a fire to keep me warm. I came to this beach about 4 hours ago with my best friend Joe, who's in the distance talking to one of the other hippies. I'm sat by the fire, around a stone's throw away from the sea, with 3 Polish guys who are joking and laughing with each other while stirring their bean soup. These guys are around 40 years old with golden skin and muscular bodies. I then realise I'm sat with the shamans of this community. While sitting here, I begin to think about who's the leader. Surely it would be a strong man who's physically capable, in shape and assertive. So I start scanning the crowd of the hippies to search for their leader. But my thoughts are interrupted as I hear what sounds like 2 people arguing. So I turn to my left and see my friend Joe talking to another Polish guy. I take one look at him and realise he's the leader. This guy is tanned, fully naked, muscular, covered in tattoos with long slick back hair, the kind of man you could rely on in a crisis. So I stand up to see what's happening, but I only catch the last part of their conversation as I see the Polish guy walking away from Joe, still talking. "What is your contribution to this society? What have you brought for us?" the Polish guy argues. "Wood? Food? Water? What?" I take one look at Joe to measure his response to see if he would take it as an insult. "Hey," Joe replies. "I appreciate that more than you know." So I take a sigh of relief as I realise they weren't arguing. The Polish guy was merely testing Joe's masculinity. Our masculinity, because we came here in a party of 2. So I debriefed the conversation with Joe and we both knew what had to come next. 3 days later, on the 26th of December, we decide to return to the hippie beach, but this time with an offering. So as evening comes around, we gather the supplies we need in the hostel we're staying at and prepare to take our long pilgrimage to the hippie beach. But our options for an offering are limited, because to get to the hippie beach you have to take a 15-minute bus and then a 45-minute hike across the rocky Spanish cliffs while the sun is scorching down on you. But we can't arrive empty-handed. Not this time. So as we get off the bus and begin to take the hike, we start questioning where the hippies get resources like wood for their fires in the first place. But 5 minutes into our hike, we then stumble across the perfect gift. A 6-foot-long dead palm tree. Joe instantly pitches the idea to me that we could carry this 6-foot-long dead palm tree together and offer it to the hippies, and we would appear as heroes in the eyes of the muscular men there and the beautiful naked women who would be looking at us as we descend the cliffs. They'd be in awe of our manliness, they'd think, as they would instantly see the hardship it required to get the tree all the way to the community. And they'd greet us with cheers and applause as they stand there in their nudity. So me and Joe stand there for the next 5 minutes, overlooking this dead palm tree, debating whether it actually will be worth the effort to take it there, until we settle on taking it. One at the front, one at the back, we carry this tree, which we think will be perfect for a fire, through the evening crowds of people eating at restaurants and children playing on the street, all looking at us in laughter until we reach the foot of the cliff. Then the real challenge begins. Locked into the challenge, me and Joe aren't backing out. We invite the struggle as this tree, which weighs around 50 kilograms, tears our forearms and strains our necks. But the bigger the struggle, the bigger the reward, we think. So 15 minutes go by, and we need to take a break. We're not even halfway yet and we still need to make an ascent. Me and Joe aren't talking at this point, because talking would be a waste of energy. So we set our minds on the task and the vision of the hippies cheering us with applause as we make our way down the cliff. But 30 minutes in, we're sweating, exhausted and panting from the heat. We wonder if we've lost our way, but then we turn a corner to hear the music. The sweet hippie music. So we make our last descent and make our way down the beach slowly, as we see the exact same hippies from 3 days ago all stood there, fully naked, looking at us, all 40 of them as the sun sets behind them. As we come down the cliff, I would shout out, "Look at us, look what we've brought," but I'm too tired. Save the celebrations for later, I think. So me and Joe make the last jump, letting go of the tree and allowing it to fall onto the sandy beach. We both sigh as we let go of the tree, feeling accomplished with our mission, stood around 20 meters away from the hippies. So I wait by the tree as Joe transcends the waves of hippie hair to find our Polish leader, and I can see the excitement and assertiveness in his walk. But as I'm looking from afar, wondering why the clapping and cheering hasn't started yet, there seems to be an awkwardness in the air. Joe's now having a conversation with the Polish guy and their body language seems to be standoffish. Now I can see the Polish guy making a dismissive gesture with his hand and shaking his head. So as I stand by the tree waiting in anxious anticipation, trying to not look at all of the beautiful women stood in front of me fully naked, Joe comes back to me with the news and I realise what he has to say to me next is the real challenge. They don't want it, Joe says. Wait, what? What do you mean? What about the fire? I ask. Apparently you can't use it for a fire, Joe says. It won't burn. Plus you can get fined for using it by the Spanish coastal guards. My sigh takes on a different tone this time as I lean back against the rock, trying not to pay attention to all of the beautiful naked women in front of us talking amongst themselves with us centre stage. So me and Joe debrief this experience in our mind as quickly as we can. Okay, we say to each other, as we accept our fate. So we take the tree to the side of the cliff, out of the sight of the hippies, tear it up and put it into neat bundles, and we discuss our experience and our thoughts. You know what? If they don't want it, that's fine. I enjoyed the journey, Joe says. Exactly. If they want to use it, they can. If not, no hassle, I respond. So we shake hands, proud of our mission, drop our expectations and go and dance around the fire with all of the other frolicking naked hippies. There's a brilliant quote from the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho which reads, "You can't promise what you don't yet have." And I think this is a brilliant description of the nature of expectations. When we set an expectation for how something should go in our minds, we're setting ourselves up for failure regardless of whether that expectation is met or not. Because if the expectation isn't met, we'll be disgruntled. But if the expectation is met, it will reinforce the behaviour that we can imprint an idea of how life should be externally, rather than enforcing the behaviour of focusing on our inputs, realistically the only things we do control. Expectations of how life should be creates tension as you try to squeeze between an image of what should be and what actually is. Focusing on the effort you put in with no thought of reward creates solace, as your expectations dissolve in the flow of your activity. Me and Joe had the expectation that the hippies would receive our offering with open arms, but it wasn't until we arrived on the beach with this huge 6-foot-long dead palm tree that we were forced to dispel with our expectations, and instead express gratitude for the effort we put in regardless. How often have you fallen prey to being caught off guard because a situation turned out differently than you expected it? How often have you fallen into ruts because you've been so rooted in a fantasy you hold in your mind of how life should be that when it turns out otherwise, your life is shattered before your very eyes, and you're unable to pivot and let go of this idea? At the root of expectations is desire, and as Buddha said all those years ago, the end of desire is the end of sorrow. In Buddhism, desire is referred to as tanha, which means thirst, longing, or greed. A set expectation is dead because it lives in the past. Living your life in pursuit of it is like driving your car whilst only looking in the rearview mirror. Your gaze isn't sharp, open and attentive to all of the things happening in front of you in real time, not to mention the ever-changing and winding road ahead. We're unable to get rid of our expectations completely because this desire-creating system in our brain is so strong. But what you can do is shift your expectations from external to internal. When you focus on the effort you put into something rather than the result you want to get out of it, your focus shifts from a futile fascination of how things should be and it tunes into a meaningful occupation over your trajectory. You want to give someone a gift? Focus on your gratitude for your act of charity. Don't set your sights on whether this person will receive your gift with grace or not, especially if they're a hippie. Because other people have no obligation to live up to your expectations and vice versa. As Naval Ravikant says, if you upset someone because they have an expectation of you, that's their problem, not yours. You want to become successful in your endeavours. Forget the idea of monetary reward or status and pour all of your energy into the positive contributions you can make each day to your purpose, or the thing that intrinsically drives you. I've mentioned in another video an equation which has single-handedly changed my life, but in that video I feel I didn't articulate it well enough, so allow me to try and summarise it within 30 seconds. Want nothing plus do anything equals have everything. Wanting nothing means we do away with our expectations and desire. Do anything means despite our desireless state, we don't lounge around like a hippie smoking his life away. Instead, we still act in whatever way our soul guides us to do so, but without the thought of any reward. Have everything means if we combine these two things, we'll live from a place of abundance and fullness where nothing feels lacking. In the words of Epictetus, don't wish that events will turn out the way we want, but welcome them in whichever way they happen. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu god Krishna tells the warrior of the story Arjuna that he has no right to the rewards of his work. So it is with action. The reward is the action. The action is the ends, not the means. If you live this way, desiring nothing but what you already have, and expecting no outcomes for your effort, but still engaging in that effort anyway, you'll experience all the tranquility in the world.